Okay, good to go?
Mhm.
Fantastic. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Central Coast Local Planning Panel. I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we're meeting on today, and especially the Darkinjung speaking people of the Central Coast area and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I extend that respect to elders past and present and to all future cultural knowledge holders. As you know, the meeting is being recorded and webcast, so there's to be no other recording or filming of the meeting. Our decisions and audio recording should be available on Council's website ordinarily well within 7 days from the date of the meeting. The members of the panel today are myself, Donna Reigate, as the chair, Sue Francis and Greg Flynn as our expert professional panel members, and Lynn Hunt, who is our community panel member, so welcome. We don't have any apologies. Today, we've got 2 items that meet the criteria for a public meeting, those being a proposed multi-dwelling and subdivision at Wairima Road, Warnervale, and a residential flat proposal for the Esplanade at Long Beach. We only have people registered to speak on the second of those items, so the Ettalong matter. We will also consider this afternoon a number of things that don't meet the criteria for a public meeting that have been set by the state government, including providing advice on a planning proposal in relation to Gugandi Road, Narara, a dual occupancy proposal at Patton Street, Woy Woy, and a residential flat building proposal and demolition at Athol Street, Toukley. The panel has received assessment reports prepared by council staff, and we've also had access to the public submissions on the applications. We've done site orientation and we've had briefings. Council staff have also briefed us on key issues the applications raised, and we've received a couple of bits of additional advice from council staff, which if they're not already on the panel's website will be put up there pronto. Okay, so we may as well, as I said, we'll hear from the 2 speakers. What happens after that is that we adjourn to deliberate, and because we're doing this meeting electronically, our objective is to get the outcomes of the meeting up on council's website as soon as possible, and preferably within 1 or 2 days of the panel's meeting, business days. First things first, declarations of interest. People are aware of the requirements of the Code of Conduct. Does anybody have a declaration that has not previously been made?
No, Chair.
No, I have no conflicts either. Minutes of the previous meeting. We've got minutes of the meeting held on 24 November that were endorsed by the chair of that meeting. We're asked to note those. Is everybody happy to do that?
Hey, Rach. Sorry. Oh, no, don't worry.
Pardon? I think you probably ought to go on to silent, Chantal. Yeah, thanks. Right. Okay, let's get straight into the development applications. And as I said, we've got 2 people to speak to us about the Esplanade at Long Beach proposal. Before we ask to hear from those people, the council advised the panel this morning that revised plans had been submitted in relation to that proposal, which essentially address all of the concerns and matters to be conditioned in the council report, other than I think something about an accessible, adaptable unit, which is yet to be addressed. So with that in mind, we will make that additional information available on the website. I'd ask Mr. Luke Windress to address us in relation to that application.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, regarding the development, I am the owner of 128 Broken Bay Road. Now, my concerns, I have 2 major concerns that are partly addressed in this latest document that was on your website. I haven't seen what you're relating to at the moment, but basically it's privacy and view of loss. The privacy aspect is basically I have 4 young children, and this development is basically being built on the back of my backyard with a balcony that basically turns my backyard into an arena to watch my kids. Now, I believe on this statement that there is recommendations for louvers to be installed, but what guarantee, and also the reduction of the balcony in size, so we're back 5 metres from the back fence. What guarantees will council give me in regards to, as soon as this building is complete and is sold, that the new owners will not remove those louvers for a start? And also regarding the view assessment that's in here is incorrect. As far as my current view at the moment, it basically, my view is of Broken Head or Little Box Head, sorry, and the surf break, which I enjoy when I sit down and have breakfast every morning, with regards to if being daylight or not. Whereas the view impact statement here, it's put a building there for some reason alongside the existing one. So I don't know how council could make a decision on view impact when they're not even looking at the correct diagram or whatever you call this picture. So they're my major concerns, and I'd like them addressed, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Windris. I just need to tell everybody that I've been notified by the Secretariat that we're having some live streaming problems. The recording is still taking place. So in the interest of not wasting people's time, I suggest we continue, because the recording will be available to anybody who missed out on the webcast. Is the panel comfortable with that? Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Okay, I'd now like to call, unless anyone has any questions for Mr. Windris at this point, I might move on to Mr. Crowe on behalf of the applicant. If you could address the panel, please, Mr. Crowe, and if you have anything to say in response to the matters raised by Mr. Windris, that would be helpful.
All right. Thanks for your time, everyone. I thought I might just give you a little bit of background to the site planning that's sort of generated this design. The general approach was to take advantage of whatever water views we could for the site, but also I wanted to open up the northern aspect to each of the units. And to do that and take advantage of that northern orientation, we've ended up with a layout that's skewed to the side boundaries. What this does, it means that the rear units also get the benefit of water views, but all 4 units have northern sun as well as southern view, and that also leads to the added benefit of cross ventilation through the unit. So the passive solar benefits to the development are quite substantial. This is also leads to obviously side boundary setback difficulties where we have a stepped facade, and the development controls have difficulty handling sort of non-parallel setbacks, and don't tend to recognise the positive design outcomes that that flow from that sort of approach to site planning. But that being said, the other major sort of design element of the scheme is the central stair pavilion, which is a pivot point about which the two arms of the units spread either side, and we wanted to express that that central element as a separate design device, and hence the pop-up roof for that hat over the pavilion, and treating that with different materials to articulate that facade. So that was quite a strong design element, but yeah, as I said, sort of makes side boundary setbacks difficult to achieve, even though that stepped facade means that our openings are not looking directly into our side neighbours, and looking more obliquely, and providing privacy benefits in that respect. I am more than happy to, if you would like me to, sort of walk you through the proposed amendments that we've submitted to Keelan Consulting for the balcony screening, if people haven't had time to review those. I can do that if you think it's of benefit, but otherwise to mention that the roof height has been amended so that we're fully compliant with the 8.5 height limit.
Look, you need to tell us whatever you think you should tell us. So it's up to you.
Well, I would ask whether members of the panel have had a chance to review the amended design.
Look, we've been provided with the information this morning, so in the time available, we've come to grips with it as best we can, I think you'd say.
Right.
But after you're finished, I am going to ask Mr. Scholar from Keystone Cops or Capstone or whatever they're, Keyland, sorry, to take us through the revised material in the context of the issues raised in his report, just for the benefit of members of the public. Keyland have been engaged to assist council and did this assessment on their behalf. So,
well, perhaps I'd suggest.
Chair, can I suggest that the consideration of the previous speaker, Mr. Windress, look at the concerns he had with the view loss issues. You do have some diagrams which show the existing and proposed view loss, but he raised queries about that, if you were listening.
Yes, if I can share my screen, I could bring up those view sharing views that form part of the application.
yeah, that's fine with me. Chantal, I think you might need to press something to make that possible. Is it happening?
Let me try it. Yeah, that looks like it's working.
Yep, something's happening here too. Great.
Can you see those perspectives?
Yep.
Now, I don't pretend to understand what his concern was, but perhaps I can answer his question. I think this is the relevant view he's talking about.
Right.
So just to clarify, the existing view, there was something about there being a building in the way that wasn't there, but the existing view shows what? And tell us what the existing view shows and tell us what the proposed view shows.
Okay, this is the existing view. This is Barrenjoey headland in the background. This is the top of number 118, the Esplanade. And this is the existing house on the subject site. And then number 116 to the east. And this is an existing tree that is remaining. This is the view with the latest changes made with the reduction in roof height. Top of 118. You know, obviously it's not possible to take advantage of the development rights for the site without having an impact on property owners, but we have the skewed layout of the design on the site has opened up access to the water more so than if an orthogonal design was on the site. That's all I can really say.
What about privacy from the upper deck?
The setback of the balcony has been adjusted as per Keelan's recommendations to 5 metres. So the upper balcony is fully compliant. You'll notice there's a suspended planter bed here along the balcony line. So there is opportunity for vegetation within that planter box. There's significant deep soil setback on the rear boundary. So opportunity for you know, screening trees to be planted along there. We are set back between 6 to 7 metres, or 7 point something metres on that wall line, and I believe the number 128 Broken Bay Road is set back something like 25 metres from the rear boundary. So there's about in excess of 30 metre setback between the two buildings, and we're set down because there's a level difference between the rear of 128 and our rear yard of about from memory, I think about 1.2 to 1.5 metres.
So is it true that there would be a view of the rear garden of 128 and 130, 32?
At the moment, yes, there would be. There's an existing fence at the rear of 128, which is I believe about 1.8 metres high. So yes, it would be possible to look into the yard.
Okay. And what's the planting proposed at the rear of your site?
Look, my apologies. I can't tell you offhand. It's been 13 months since this was submitted to council and probably 18 months since it was designed. So I can't answer that immediately. But
I'm trying to find your landscape plans through your plans. So if you can draw my attention to those, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Because you have more knowledge of them than me, given that you drew them.
No, I didn't do the landscape plan. That was done by.
Well, you submitted this. You submitted them.
Well, if you bear with me, I'll be able to find them.
There we are.
Are you able to see that landscape plan?
Yes, yes. So what is the planting? So we've got a tree. I can't tell the heights of those.
No. So frangipani is the PRA.
Yeah, that's a tree. What about the,
Um,
what are
6
those?
MPs, I think.
What are these 6
Okay,
MPs?
appear to
Yeah.
be.
the
Yeah.
MPs, orange jessamine.
On
Which,
orange jasmine, Moreas. So they're Moreas. So they're a hedging plant.
Yeah, 2 by 1, 2 meters by 1
2
meter.
meters by 1 meter. And the 10 CG, velvet dusty miller, 1 meter by 1 meter.
So the only thing I can tell is a hedging plant there is the Morea, but okay, which will grow to, well, I've got a 5 meter Morea on my boundary, so they will grow up, but okay, that can be.
Oh, there is a Guymere lily, 2.5 meters by 2 meters. Is the DE.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
All right. Do we have any other questions? We seem to be into questions. Would the panel like us to get Mr. Scollard from Keyland to just walk us through what matters have been addressed in the latest set of plans received by council, and what matters remain outstanding in his, where he suggests conditions in his report?
Yep, that would be helpful.
No problem. Happy to jump in. Would you like us to share architectural plans?
If that would be if that would assist in people understanding where this is at, that would be very helpful, given that it's a somewhat unusual process.
Okay, we'll just pull up the plans now.
Can I see that?
No, Chantel, do you need to press something to make that happen? Oh, here we go.
No, they can all share the screen.
Terrific, thanks.
And then I think we'll just pull up maybe the floor plans in the first instance, and then we can maybe look at the elevations too. So if you go to the ground floor plan first. So firstly, the first amendment that was made was that the deletion of the third story element, and that was previously identified as a cleaner and plant room on the plans. That amendment has revised the roof to comply with the applicable maximum building height of 8.5 meters. And the removal of the GFA that's associated with that floor area has also resulted in a compliant FSR of 0.6 to 1.
Can I just say, particularly for the purposes of Mr. Windress, who may not be a planner, if you do GFA and FSR in words, it might just help. Yeah,
so GFA stands for gross floor area, which is essentially the quantum of floor space on the site. And then, FSR is the floor space ratio, so how that quantum of FSR relates to the overall site area on the site. So I hope that provides some clarification.
So are you saying that the building is smaller? The
building is smaller in floor in terms of the gross floor area now, yes, because
and not as high.
Not as high. So it's gone from a 3-story building to a 2-story building, and then the gross floor area has been reduced so that it complies with the applicable controls under the Gosford LEP. So yeah, in terms then, will I move? Is that sufficient, or would you like me to move on to the actual floor?
I'm happy for you to move on. People can always come back and ask you questions if they need to, or jump in.
No problem. Well, look, we might just move on to unit 3, which is the ground floor unit to the rear. So you can see clouded in red, just where the cursor is, that the terrace there referred to as the sun deck, there's been an increased setback provided. So now there's a minimum setback of 2 meters, and a floor to ceiling vertical privacy screen has been provided along that western boundary, with the purpose of that to mitigate view lines towards the adjoining property to the west, from that area of private open space. The planter bed has also been extended along the length of that privacy screen. So that area was formerly part of what's described as the C deck or the terrace, but that has been converted into a planter bed. So that, you know, when there's vegetation planted on that, will provide additional screening in addition to the privacy screen. So that's, you can see there's also some cladding around the sun deck, but that's to do with the amending of the extent of the balcony and first floor level for unit 4, which I'll touch on shortly. But do you want to just move on to the first floor plans?
Can I just ask a question before you go on? Just where's the privacy screen that we've talked? Mr. We just talked about the privacy screen. Where is that located?
Can you see just with the cursor, where the cursor is there? It's annotated on the plan privacy screen.
I think
I thought he was at the rear.
Here, isn't he?
Yeah, he was at the rear.
That's on the next level up.
That's
the
on
upper
the
level.
that's on the
okay.
next level up. Yeah. No, that's what I'll
Okay.
touch on now shortly.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
No problem. Apologies if there's any confusion there. So look, in terms of at first floor level, there's been changes to both unit 2 to the front of the site and unit 4 to the rear. So I'll start off with unit 2. So the sun deck, which is the balcony to the rear or to the north of unit 2, access off the sunroom area, and that has been amended. So there's been an increased setback provided for that balcony. So there's now a minimum setback provided of approximately 2.5 meters. In addition, a floor to ceiling privacy screen has been provided for the length of that balcony as it interfaces with the property to the east. So that's the change that's occurred for unit 2. And then lastly, I'll move on to unit 4. So there's been 2 changes to unit 4. The first one is to the C deck, which is orientated to the south to, you know, look at views of Broken Bay. So that area of private open space has been the balcony. It's been, again, an additional setback has been provided to approximately, I think it's 2 meters is the minimum setback that's provided. And again, there's a privacy louvered screen incorporated on the western side of that balcony. Also, the planter bed has been extended along the length of the western side of the balcony. So again, as per the terrace below for unit 3, the planter bed should provide some additional screening in addition to the planter screen. Then to the rear of unit 4, what's described as the sun deck, that balcony that's orientated to the north, that setback has been increased from 4 meters to 5 meters. Yeah, and I suppose that's just to provide, you know, increased separation distance to the properties to the rear at 128 and 132 Broken Bay Road. There hasn't been any screening provided on that balcony, but in terms of the actual setback, the DCP requires a 5 meter setback from the boundary for balconies, which is what has been provided on the plans. So look, in terms of that's the extent of the changes that have been made. I know that there was another aspect of condition 2.3, which was that an adaptable house was to be annotated on the plans, and that condition still remains, and you know, that can, I suppose, be annotated prior to the issue of a construction certificate.
Okay, thank you.
Is there
Righto.
any- Any questions on that?
Yeah, can I ask one question? In relation to the rear setback, is that a rear setback for first floor balconies or just a rear setback for built form?
It's for balconies, yeah. So it's balconies can encroach within the building setback by 1 meter. The building setback is 6 meters, so it's allowed to encroach 1 meter, which would take it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, members of the panel, other questions for any of our speakers this afternoon, or indeed anyone else from council who might be on here that we could ask questions of?
I don't have any questions.
Could I just add one thing if there are no other questions?
I have a question.
Okay, let's have that question.
So
please.
just regarding that last unit, unit 4 at the back, you said there's no screening provided. Is there a possibility of adding screening to that terrace that's north facing?
As you can see, the depth of that balcony is quite narrow, providing a vertical physical screen would make that balcony pretty unusable. The benefit of that balcony is it is north facing and would get fantastic all day sunshine. The other difficulty is that the balcony is out proud of the eave line. So an unrestrained screen structurally is a little bit trickier to achieve because of wind load. And I think, you know, it would be much easier to provide a soft landscape solution rather than a physical barrier.
Yep. Thank you.
If you don't mind, I meant to just mention one other condition that I wanted to raise, and that was to do with the requirement, condition 5.8 for visitor parking spaces. The DCP table 7.1.3.2 A2 does allow for on-street visitor spaces in this area of Ettalong, where there's unrestricted on-street car parking. So we'd request that requirement be removed from the conditions.
Okay, does Mr. Scholar, do you have any comment to make on that?
In terms of that condition, so within the SEE that was provided, that wasn't requested. So we've based our assessment off, you know, the DCP. The applicant is correct that there is that provision within the DCP. So where you've got less than 4 units, or you've got, I think you're within 60 meters of unrestrained on-street car parking, you can request or look to provide visitor parking on the street. In terms of this stretch of the esplanade, there is parking is restricted on the southern side of the road, and it is an area that's, I suppose, in higher demand for car parking, given that it's opposite the water area. So there is a higher demand for on-street parking. So on that basis, and given the fact that the DCP requires, I think, a minimum of 6 spaces for, you know, parking provision for the site, 8 have been provided, and so there is that ability to provide visitor parking on site. So on that basis, you know, we, you know, be of the position that the condition should remain as is.
That's interesting, because I was going to say, how are we going to provide it if there's no space in the basement? But you've answered that question. So there's in excess parking, and you're suggesting one of those spaces be a visitor space. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there?
Could I respond to that?
Hold on, not yet. No. Is there access to the basement?
It's a
Yes.
secure.
No. I'm asking council staff.
Sorry.
Look, it is a below ground basement car park, but it could be, provided, like standard basement car parking. You press a button and, someone buzzes you up to gain access to the basement.
So is that part of the condition?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, members of the panel, any further questions?
No question.
Could I add a remark, please?
Nothing from me.
Yes, I suppose you may.
I'll just point out, yes, we do have an additional car space in the basement, but it is a secure car park, and the practicalities of allowing a visitor, opening the roller door to give them access is a little bit tricky. I'll also point out that each unit has 2 car spaces already. So if they have a visitor, it's quite likely that there might already be a spare car space that they can provide. And I'd also like to point out that in our car park, we are trying to make provision for one of the unit owners, if they were to have a disability, that one particular car space can share a loading zone adjacent to it to allow a disabled car space. So if we were forced to make that as a visitor car space, then we can't accommodate a unit owner with a disability.
Aren't you required under the BCA to provide disabled access?
No, we're not.
Why is that? Because of the number of units or what?
I think so. Honestly, I can't remember
Because I'm pretty sure you have to provide disabled access parking. But I'll get council to confirm the quantum that
council
kicks in.
But I know we've been through it and established that it wasn't a requirement.
Okay.
But I also would just add that the table in the DCP says visitor spaces at 0.2 per dwelling. It goes on to say, in the area defined as the peninsula, including Ettalong, visitor parking and service vehicle access may be provided on the existing street where it's either 4 units or less or unrestricted on-street parking is safely available within 60 metres of the development. It doesn't seem to require us to request that. It is available to us, is my reading of it.
Righto, members of the panel, have we got anything else to ask any of these people before we go off and deliberate on these issues? Okay, well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. My apologies about the webcast problem, but I understand the recording's okay and can go up pretty quickly, so that's good. As I said at the beginning, what happens now is that the panel goes away to deliberate on this matter and the other matters that it's got on its agenda today. We will endeavour to get the outcome of today's meeting up on council's website within a couple of business days. I guess the only other thing to say is, members of the panel, I'll give you 5 minutes to make a cup of tea and then we'll click back into the next link for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Can we make sure that council's assessment staff are available for questions when we need them? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. If we could please have the council assessment staff on standby, that'd be terrific. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody.
Thank you.
That closes the meeting.
Bye.